What's up, everybody? So it's like 11 o'clock, but anyway, these are some notes that I wanted to share with you guys about Everyday Use by Alice Walker, which is the story we are reading this week. So, what I did is basically I broke the story into sections and just kind of wanted to share some things you want to look out for as you read these sections, just so you can have a more like rich experience and just so you can really see what's going on in the story. So, anyway, here we go. So that those first 16 paragraphs in the story, there's a lot of, let me get rid of that real quick. There is a lot of like background building going on. In particular, within the stories of the three main characters themselves, which are Maggie, Dee, and Miss Johnson, the mom, which also happens to be our first person narrator. Now Alice Walker is really good at developing characters, not just physically, not just like describing them as far as what they look like, but also kind of getting into their head and in their hearts. Like, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? How do they see themselves? How do they see each other? Alice Walker is really, really good. It's what I like about her the most. It's just the way she does that. So these are the paragraphs where she does that with these characters, and that's the kind of stuff you want to look out for here, because that is the foundation on which the rest of the story is built. So more than anything, what is the relationship between the three of them? How does Maggie see her sister and her mom? How does Dee see her sister and her mom? And how does Miss Johnson see her daughters? That's the kind of stuff you want to look out for. Another interesting part in that section, paragraph 10 talks about the old house and the fire that happened, explains Maggie's scars. And paragraph 14 goes over the new house and how Miss Johnson feels about that. So something to keep an eye out for. Anyway, right when we get to paragraph 17, which you can see right here, that is when Dee arrives. Let me not highlight that. That is when Dee arrives. That is when Dee just kind of shows up. The moment we've all been waiting for. Things you want to look out for here in this section, which is from 17 to 44, is, who is the new Dee? What is Dee like now? Not just appearance-wise, but like her ideologies, the way she thinks, the way she acts. Her in particular, her concept of culture, her concept of history, and just the way that Miss Johnson, Mama Johnson, is like reacting to all of this as it's happening in front of her. That's the kind of stuff you want to see in this section. We're also introduced to our fourth character, Hakima Barber. Kind of a minor character, but he's there. He's definitely there, and he does provide some insight. So just keep an eye out on that guy. Now, once we get past that part, we get to the dinner, which is it's them eating in the dinner table, and keep an eye out on Dee's interest in Mama's stuff. Dee shows this interest in Mama's things when she walks in, kind of like she's never seen this stuff before. But why is she really that interested in that stuff? Keep an eye out on her intentions behind that. That'll tell you a lot. And once we get through that quick part, we get to this last part, which is where the quilts are involved. So hopefully you did the Edpuzzle on quilts, so you kind of have an idea of how quilts aren't just blankets. Quilts aren't just like the cobijas we used to use as kids. Quilts have this deep historic meaning to some families and some cultures, and this is not the exception. So keep an eye out on that. So without getting spoilery, because I totally don't want to spoil it, but when you get to this last section of the story, you really want to keep an eye out on what is Dee's attitude versus Maggie's attitude when it comes to these quilts. Just kind of keep an eye out, because Alice Walker just really kind of puts them next to each other to really make it stand out. Now, Miss Johnson goes through a lot of development throughout the story, but more importantly through this specific section right here, 55 to the end. So really keep an eye out on her. Like, how is she changing? How is she affected by all this stuff going on? And then the concepts of devotion and entitlement, they really kind of come to fruit here. So once you get to the end of the story, if you're kind of like, what does devotion and entitlement have to do with any of this? What is devotion? What is entitlement? By the time you get to the end of the story, you'll know what it is. So just kind of keep an eye out on that. And it looks like I'm running out of time because Screencast only lets me do 5 minutes. So thank you for swinging by. We will see you next time. Bye.